Game's over. And I kept every receipt.
The bedroom door opened at 11:32 p.m. I know because the digital clock cast green numbers across Beth's empty pillow. She walked in first, hair still damp from wherever they'd been. Behind her came Jamar, gym bag slung over his shoulder like he lived here. "Ike, we need to talk." Beth's voice carried that rehearsed calm she used when firing employees. No tremor, no guilt, just business. I sat up in bed, bare chest catching the hallway light. 20 years of marriage, and she brings another man into our bedroom to deliver news. Jamar leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching me like I might charge. "This arrangement isn't negotiable anymore," Beth continued. "I need space to explore what makes me happy, what makes us both happy, really." The words hung in the air like smoke. Arrangement. Like our marriage was some kind of contract she'd decided to modify without my signature. I counted Jamar's tattoos, 7 visible ones, including the barbed wire around his bicep that screamed 2005. His gym clothes looked expensive. Designer sneakers that cost more than my work boots. Beth had good taste in everything except loyalty. "You don't have anything to say?" Beth tilted her head, genuinely surprised. "I heard you." Jamar shifted his weight. "Look, man, this doesn't have to be. Don't." I held up one finger. "Don't say a word in my bedroom." Beth stepped closer to the bed. "Ike, I know this is hard, but where are you sleeping tonight?" "We'll figure it out." I nodded toward the door. "Figure it out somewhere else." They exchanged a look, some silent conversation I wasn't part of. Beth grabbed clothes from the dresser while Jamar watched me like I might explode, but I just sat there memorizing details. The way she chose her sexiest underwear from the drawer. The way he touched her lower back possessively. The way neither of them seemed embarrassed. After they left, I heard Beth's car start in the driveway. Not Jamar's truck, which meant he'd driven here with her. They'd planned this moment down to the transportation. I smiled when the lock clicked. Amazing what you can build from rubble. Dawn broke gray over Parish Electric's yard. I'd been here since 5, going through invoices while coffee turned bitter in my thermos. 27 trucks parked in neat rows, each one carrying my name in blue letters. My father started this company in 1987. I'd inherited it, grown it, bled for it. The office door chimed when Tommy walked in, tool belt already strapped on. "Morning, boss. We still doing the Martin Street job today?" I looked up from a permit application dated 3 days ago. Jonah's signature sprawled across the authorization line, bold as always. Problem was, I'd never signed off on Martin Street. Neither had our safety officer. "Tommy, when did Jonah last talk to you about new jobs?" "Yesterday morning. Said the city fast-tracked Martin Street. Needed 2 crews by noon." Tommy scratched his beard. "Something wrong?" I held up the permit. "This signature isn't mine." Tommy leaned over the desk. He'd worked for us 12 years, knew both parish signatures better than most bank tellers. His face went tight. "That's Jonah's handwriting trying to look like yours." My phone buzzed. Marina Cole from City Permitting. "Ike, we've got a problem with your Riverside project. Inspector found code violations that should have been caught weeks ago." "What kind of violations?" "Load-bearing modifications without engineering approval." "Someone signed off on structural changes using your authorization stamp." I stared at Jonah's forged signature. "Marina, I need to see all permits filed under Parish Electric in the last month." "That's a lot of paperwork." "I'll pick them up in an hour." After hanging up, I walked to the window overlooking our staging area. Jonah stood next to his black BMW, talking on his phone and gesturing with his free hand. Even from 50 yards away, I could read his body language. Aggressive, defensive, selling something to someone who wasn't buying. The signature was my brother's. The date was yesterday. Beth called while I was driving to City Hall. "Ike, I know last night was awkward." "Is that what we're calling it?" "I want to explain. Sylvie says there's a healthy way to handle this. She's been researching open marriages for her podcast." I almost laughed. "Sylvie Brennan, marriage expert, 3 divorces and counting." "This isn't about hurting you," Beth continued. "It's about honesty. About both of us getting what we need." "What do you need?" "Freedom, excitement, the chance to explore who I am outside this suffocating arrangement." There was that word again, arrangement. "And Jamar gives you that? He makes me feel alive, Ike." "When's the last time we felt alive together?" I pulled into the city parking lot. Marina's office was on the second floor, overlooking the river where ships used to dock back when the city mattered. "I'm listening," I said. "Really? Tell me about this open marriage idea." Beth's voice brightened. "It's not about replacing what we have, it's about expanding it. Sylvie says most marriages fail because people try to get everything from one person. But if we're honest about our needs, and my needs don't matter? Of course they do. You could explore too if you wanted." The parking meter ate my quarters. "So I get to watch you with him, and in exchange I can find my own Jamar?" "It's not about watching. It's about trust and communication and..." "Beth? Yeah? If it's open, it's on paper." Sylvie's backyard barbecue felt like a setup from the moment I walked through the gate. Too many couples I barely knew, too much forced laughter, too much wine flowing at 3 in the afternoon. Beth wore the red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. Jamar worked the crowd like he owned the place. Personal trainer confidence, easy smile, firm handshakes all around. He'd changed from last night's gym clothes into khakis and a polo that showed off his build without being obvious about it. I grabbed a beer and found a spot near the fence where I could watch without participating. "Ike!" Sylvie materialized with a wine glass and too much enthusiasm. "I'm so glad you came. This is exactly what healthy communication looks like." "Is it?" "Beth told me about your conversation, how mature of you to consider new possibilities." I sipped my beer. "What possibilities?" "Well, exploring your authentic selves within the framework of committed partnership. My podcast has been diving deep into ethical non-monogamy, and the research is fascinating." Across the yard, Jamar said something that made Beth throw her head back laughing. The sound carried over the crowd like a dinner bell. "Ike?" Sylvie touched my arm. "Are you okay?" "Fine. Because if you need to talk through any feelings, I'm good." But I wasn't good. I was making a list. Every person at this party who looked at me with pity, every friend who avoided eye contact, every couple who whispered when they thought I wasn't watching. The kitchen was cooler and quieter. I was rinsing my bottle when Jamar walked in. "Hey, man." He grabbed 2 beers from the fridge. "How you holding up?" "Fine." "I know this is weird. Beth and we didn't plan for it to happen." I turned around. "No? It just developed. You know how it is." He twisted the cap off one bottle. "But I respect what you two built together. I'm not trying to replace that. What are you trying to do? Be honest. Live authentically." He took a long drink. Beth deserves someone who appreciates all of her, not just the parts that fit into some outdated idea of what marriage should look like. The words hit different than Beth's rehearsed speeches. Jamar actually believed this garbage. "You think I don't appreciate my wife? I think you've gotten comfortable, complacent. Beth's an amazing woman, but when's the last time you made her feel amazing?" I set my bottle down carefully. "When's the last time you were married? Never saw the point in signing papers to prove love." "Right. Look, I get it. This challenges everything you were taught about relationships. But maybe what you were taught was wrong." The kitchen felt smaller. Jamar was bigger up close, younger, hungrier. The kind of man who'd never changed a diaper or held someone's hair while they threw up from chemo. The kind who thought love was a feeling instead of a decision you make every morning for 20 years. "Maybe," I said. He smiled, mistaking agreement for surrender. "Beth said you're being really cool about this." "That takes strength." Through the window, I watched Beth animated conversation with 2 women I didn't recognize. Her hands moved when she talked, wedding ring catching sunlight. Still wearing it, at least. "Jamar? Yeah? What do you do when someone disrespects your house?" His smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "Simple question. Someone comes into your space, takes your things, treats you like you don't matter. What do you do?" "I guess it depends." "No, it doesn't depend. You handle it." The kitchen went quiet except for the refrigerator humming and distant party chatter. Jamar set his beer down. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm asking what you'd do." "I'd protect what's mine." I nodded. "Good answer." We stared at each other across Sylvie's granite countertop. Jamar's jaw tightened, shoulders squaring up like he was getting ready for something. But I just smiled and walked back outside. He laughed first. I just took attendance. Rain turned the streets into black mirrors. I followed Beth's taillights through downtown, keeping 2 cars back like they teach in detective movies. She drove fast, confident, taking turns without signaling. Jamar's truck stayed close behind her. They parked in front of a converted warehouse near the river. Expensive area, all loft apartments and art galleries. The kind of neighborhood that used to house factory workers, now home to people who thought manual labor was a character flaw. I killed my engine and watched them disappear into the building. Lights came on in a third-floor window. Shadows moved behind white curtains, close together, separating, coming together again. My phone buzzed with a text from Beth. "Working late tonight, don't wait up." I typed back, "Stay safe." Then I called the city assessor's office. After hours, but I knew the night guy. "Eddie, it's Ike Parrish. I need a property lookup." "Little late for real estate research, isn't it?" "Humor me. 447 Riverside Drive, Unit 3C. Keys clicked over the phone. "Here we go. Purchased 18 months ago. Cash deal. Owner of record is..." Pause. "Huh. Jonah Parrish. That your brother?" I stared up at the lit window where my wife was undressing for another man in my brother's apartment. The loft lease had a second name. Jonah Parrish. Dawn at Parrish Electric meant I had the office to myself. I'd been there since 5, pulling files and cross-referencing invoices while coffee grew cold in my thermos. The company books told a story I didn't want to believe. Payroll showed ghost employees. Timesheets for people who didn't exist, collecting paychecks that got deposited into accounts I'd never authorized. Material orders doubled in price between purchase and billing, the difference vanishing into shell companies with familiar banking patterns. The worst part was how professional it looked. Jonah had always been better with numbers than me. Better with people, too. While I ran crews and fixed problems, he handled permits and contracts and client relations. I'd trusted him to manage the business side while I focused on the work. Stupid. My phone rang at 6:47 a.m. Jonah. "Morning, brother." "Early day?" "Someone's got to keep the lights on." "That's what I'm calling about. We've got that city contract starting Monday. Big money, but we need to move fast on permits." I stared at an invoice showing copper wire purchased at market price, billed to the city at triple cost. Which permits? Marina's expediting everything. Should have final approval by noon. Marina Cole. The same Marina who'd called yesterday about code violations. The same Marina whose signature appeared on dozens of fast-track permits in the last 6 months. "Jonah, how well do you know Marina?" "Well enough to get our jobs approved." "Why?" "Just curious about her process." "Her process is whatever keeps Parrish Electric profitable." "Speaking of which, I need your signature on some change orders." I found the folder he was talking about. 6 change orders, all increasing project scope and billing, all requiring both Parrish brothers' signatures for amounts over 50,000. "I'll look at them." "Today, Ike, we're on a tight deadline." After hanging up, I drove to the Martin Street job site. 2 of our crews had been working since dawn, running conduit through a building that would house the city's new data center. $1 million contract, the kind that kept us busy for months. But something felt wrong. The electrical layout didn't match our usual standards. Corners cut, safety margins ignored, inspections scheduled too close together. Like someone had prioritized speed over everything else. Tommy waved me over to a junction box. "Boss, this doesn't look right." He was correct. The wiring configuration violated 3 separate code sections. Any inspector worth his clipboard would shut us down in minutes. Who approved this layout? Jonah said it came from engineering. Special requirements for the data equipment. I pulled out my phone and called Marina. "Marina, it's Ike Parrish. I need to understand something about the Martin Street permits." "What about them?" "The electrical specifications. Who signed off on the non-standard wiring patterns?" Pause. "Those came from your brother. Said you'd approve them as cost-saving measures?" "I never approved anything." Another pause, longer this time. "Ike, are you saying Jonah acted without authorization?" I stared at the junction box that could eliminate someone if installed wrong. "I'm saying I need to review all Parrish Electric permits filed in the last 6 months." That's a lot of paperwork. "I'll make time." After hanging up, I called the crew chief over. "Shut it down." "Boss?" "All of it. Nobody works until I figure out what we're building." You can't steal a company from a man who wired the walls. City Hall at 8 a.m. meant beating the crowds. I found Marina in her office, surrounded by permit applications and looking like she hadn't slept. Ike, I pulled those files you requested. She slid a thick folder across her desk. 6 months of parish electric permits, each one stamped and approved. I flipped through pages of signatures, authorizations, and code exceptions. Marina, walk me through your approval process. Standard procedure. Application comes in, I verify signatures, check code compliance, issue permits. What about non-standard requests? Those require additional authorization, usually from the project owner or a certified engineer. I found what I was looking for. 3 permits for major code exceptions, all signed by someone claiming to represent Parish Electric's ownership. The signature looked like mine, but the pen pressure was wrong. Too heavy, too deliberate. This signature. It's not mine. Marina leaned forward, studying the document. You're sure? 20 years of signing my name, I'm sure. Her face went pale. If that's a forged authorization, then someone's been filing fraudulent permits using my company's credentials. She grabbed the folder, flipping through pages with growing alarm. Oh God, there are dozens of these. Code exceptions, fast-track approvals, safety waivers. All forged? If your signature is forged, then yes. And that means every project using these permits is... She stopped, calculating the implications. Illegal? Worse, unsafe. We'd have to shut down every active job, investigate every completed project, potentially revoke Parish Electric's licensing entirely. I felt the walls closing in. Months of work, millions in contracts, dozens of employees depending on paychecks. All of it built on fraudulent permits that could destroy the company overnight. Marina, if I cooperated with an investigation, if I helped identify who forged these signatures, would that matter? It might. But Ike, the damage is already done. Even if you're innocent, Parish Electric's reputation, what if the person who forged these signatures was also stealing from the company, embezzling funds, creating ghost employees, inflating material costs? She stared at me. Do you have proof? I'm working on it. Because if you could demonstrate that you were also a sufferer, that someone was defrauding both the city and your company, then what? Then maybe we could work something out. Controlled demolition instead of total destruction? I stood to leave, folder in hand. Marina? Yeah. How long have you known my brother? Her face flushed. What do you mean? Simple question. How long? We've worked together on city projects for maybe 2 years. Worked together how? The silence stretched between us. Marina's fingers drummed against her desk, eyes anywhere but on me. Marina, we've had dinner a few times. Discussed upcoming projects, permitting strategies. Dinner. It's not what you think. What do I think? That there's some kind of conspiracy, that I'm helping Jonah circumvent regulations for personal reasons. I waited. Okay, we've been seeing each other, but that doesn't mean I've compromised my professional standards. Seeing each other how long? 8 months. 8 months. Right around when the permit irregularities started. Right around when Jonah began pushing aggressive timelines and cost-cutting measures. Does he pay for dinner? Sometimes. Cash or credit? Marina's jaw tightened. I don't see how that's relevant. Answer the question. Cash. He always pays cash. I nodded and headed for the door. Thanks for your help, Marina. Ike, wait. This doesn't have to get complicated. I turned back. Complicated how? If you're planning to report Jonah, if you're thinking about involving internal affairs or the district attorney, maybe we should discuss options. What kind of options? Quiet resolution. Jonah stops filing permits, you both restructure the company, everybody moves forward without destroying careers. Whose career are you worried about? She didn't answer. Leave it as is, I said. Let it fail when it counts. Back at Parish Electric, the phones were ringing nonstop. I let them ring while I systematically canceled every signature authorization Jonah had filed without my knowledge. 23 permits revoked with a single phone call to Marina's supervisor. Next, I called our crane rental company. Yeah, I need to cancel the afternoon lift for Martin Street. Mr. Parrish, that equipment's already on site. Cancellation fee is bill Parish Electric, full rate. Sir, your brother specifically requested... My brother doesn't speak for Parish Electric on equipment rentals. Check your contracts. I hung up and immediately dialed our copper supplier. This is Ike Parrish. I need to modify delivery schedules for all pending orders. What kind of modifications? Delay everything by 72 hours. Cash flow issue. Mr. Parrish, your brother just called requesting expedited delivery on the Riverside project. Rush charges, premium scheduling. Cancel the rush orders. Standard delivery only. Sir, this is going to cause significant delays on your active jobs. I understand. By lunch, the phone sounded like a house on fire. The drawbridge over Miller Creek was built in 1943, back when ships actually used the river. Now it mostly carried foot traffic and the occasional city worker checking the machinery. Perfect place for a private conversation. Jonah was waiting when I arrived, leaning against the rail like he owned the view. His BMW sat in the small parking area, still running. You've been busy today. I joined him at the rail. Below us, brown water moved slowly toward the lake, carrying debris and secrets. Just cleaning house. Cleaning house by destroying every active contract, by canceling equipment rentals mid-lift, by turning profitable jobs into expensive disasters, by stopping fraud. He laughed, but it sounded forced. Fraud? Because I expedited some permits? Because you forged my signature? Because you've been stealing from the company? Because you're sleeping with the city permit officer? That got his attention. Jonah turned to face me, designer suit wrinkled from a long day of damage control. Marina told you about that? Didn't have to. The cash payments were obvious once I started looking. Cash payments for dinner, not bribes. Dinner that happened to coincide with permit approvals. Permits that violated safety codes. Permits that put our workers at risk and our company in jeopardy. A seagull landed on the bridge railing, eyed us suspiciously, then flew away. Ike, you're making this bigger than it needs to be. Yeah, I cut some corners. Yeah, I maybe pushed approval timelines. But everything I did was to keep Parish Electric profitable. Profitable for who? For both of us. For the 40 people we employ. For Mom's legacy and Dad's name on those trucks. Dad's name on trucks you were planning to sell. Jonah went quiet. The bridge creaked softly in the wind. You knew about the sale negotiations? I know about the ghost employees. The inflated material costs. The shell companies receiving Parish Electric payments. I know about the loft you bought with company money. That's exactly what it is. You've been systematically looting our business for over a year, and when I started asking questions, you decided to distract me with marriage problems. Jonah's face changed. Surprise, calculation, then something colder. You think I orchestrated Beth's affair? I think you provided the venue. I think you encouraged it. I think you figured a messy divorce would keep me busy while you completed the theft. The wind picked up, making the bridge cables hum. We stood 5 feet apart, two brothers who'd built something together and watched it turn into a weapon. You always thought you were smarter than me, Jonah said. Dad's favorite, the one who actually understood the work. But you never understood the business. I understood trust. Trust doesn't pay for new trucks. Trust doesn't win city contracts. Trust doesn't keep us competitive when every other electrical contractor is cutting corners to underbid us. So you decided to cut corners too. I decided to win by stealing from me, by saving us both. Jonah moved closer. Up close, I could see stress lines around his eyes, smell coffee and cologne and desperation. The sale was going to make us both rich. Buy out the contracts, restructure the debt, cash out before the city discovers that half these buildings aren't up to code anyway, and leave someone else holding the liability. Leave someone else holding an insurance problem. We walk away clean until people get hurt. Nobody was going to get hurt. The Martin Street wiring could eliminate someone. The Martin Street wiring passed inspection because Marina approved it without proper review. Because Marina trusted our work. I stared at my brother, seeing a stranger. She trusted forged authorizations. She trusted signatures that got the job done. The gap between us felt wider than the river below. Jonah straightened his tie, preparing for something. Here's what's going to happen, he said. You're going to reinstate those permits. You're going to apologize to Marina for the confusion. You're going to call the crane company and expedite that lift. And then you're going to sign the sale documents and walk away with enough money to start over somewhere else. Or what? Or I make sure everyone knows that your wife is sleeping with her trainer because you couldn't satisfy her. Or I make sure the IRS audits Parish Electric's books going back 10 years. Or I make sure every contractor in the city knows that Ike Parish can't control his own family, much less a construction project. We stared at each other across 40 years of shared history. Same eyes, same jawline, same stubborn Parish DNA. But somewhere along the way, we'd become different species. Jonah? What? I smiled. You just turned the lights off on yourself, brother. Beth's social media posts started that evening. Inspirational quotes about authentic living and breaking free from limiting beliefs. Photos of her and Jamar at coffee shops and art galleries, tagged with hashtags like #modernlove and #choosinghappiness. The comments came fast. Friends and acquaintances offering support, asking what happened, speculating about our marriage. Beth responded to everyone, explaining her journey toward authentic expression and thanking people for their understanding. Sylvie's podcast dropped the next morning. Breaking the Monogamy Myth, One Woman's Brave Journey Beyond Traditional Marriage. Beth was the featured guest, discussing her decision to prioritize emotional honesty over social expectations. I listened to the whole thing while driving to job sites, making notes about timeline inconsistencies and factual errors. They painted me as controlling, jealous, unable to evolve with modern relationship dynamics. Beth described feeling suffocated by outdated masculine expectations and liberated by Jamar's emotional availability. The episode got shared hundreds of times. Parish Electric's office phone started ringing with cancellation requests. That afternoon, I drove to Mom's house. She was waiting on the front porch with iced tea and disappointment. Sit down, Isaac. I'd been Isaac only when in trouble. Ike was her good boy. Isaac was the one who needed correction. I heard about Beth. What did you hear? That she's moved out, that there's another man, that you're handling it poorly. Handling it how? Jonah says you're destroying the company out of spite. Canceling contracts, alienating city officials, driving away business. I sipped tea that was too sweet and looked at the yard where Jonah and I used to throw footballs. Dad would watch from this same porch, calling out corrections and encouragement. Mom, what do you know about Parish Electric's finances? I know your father built that company to provide for his family. I know he'd be heartbroken to see you and Jonah fighting over money while it falls apart. What if Jonah was stealing from the company? I'd say that's an ugly accusation to make about your brother. What if I could prove it? She set down her glass. Isaac, your marriage is falling apart. Your business is in chaos. Your brother is trying to hold things together while you throw tantrums. Maybe the problem isn't everyone else. Maybe it is. Listen to yourself. You sound paranoid, angry. Like someone looking for anyone to blame except the man in the mirror. A squirrel ran across the power lines overhead, balancing on cables I'd helped install 15 years ago. Dad had been proud of that job. City contract, good money, work that mattered. Mom, if you had to choose between me and Jonah, who would you pick to run Parish Electric? I'd pick the son who puts the company first. Who thinks about 40 employees and their families? Who doesn't let personal problems destroy everything your father built? Even if that son was a thief? Especially if the other son was a fool. I left her porch lighter. I'd put that weight on them. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for Tuesday morning in the conference room Jonah had renovated last year. Glass table, leather chairs, motivational posters about teamwork and excellence. Very corporate for a company that started in Dad's garage. I arrived early with 3 boxes of documents: bank statements, permit applications, vendor contracts, payroll records. 6 months of financial archaeology that painted a clear picture of systematic embezzlement. Jonah walked in at exactly 9 o'clock, followed by our lawyer and accountant. Both men I'd known for years, both looking uncomfortable. Gentlemen, I said, thank you for coming on short notice. Our lawyer, Pete Morrison, cleared his throat. Ike, Jonah explained the situation. Before we begin, I want to emphasize that Parish Electric's interests should guide this discussion. Agreed. I opened the first box and pulled out bank statements. Parish Electric currently maintains 6 checking accounts, 3 savings accounts, and 2 investment accounts. All require dual signature authorization for withdrawals over $5,000. The accountant, Dave Chen, nodded. Standard procedure for partnerships, except that 18 unauthorized withdrawals occurred in the last 6 months. Total value, $412,000. I slid printouts across the table. Jonah's face stayed neutral, but his fingers drummed against the leather armrest. These withdrawals were authorized, he said. Operating expenses, equipment purchases, payroll advances. Show me the receipts. Silence. Dave, you handle our books. Did Jonah provide documentation for these withdrawals? The accountant shifted in his chair. Some documentation was delayed, meaning non-existent, meaning I'm still reviewing. Dave, I opened the second box. Here are vendor receipts for every legitimate Parish Electric expense in the last 6 months. Cross-reference them with bank withdrawals and tell me what you find. He spread documents across the table, calculator clicking as he worked. Minutes passed. The air conditioning hummed. Outside, I could hear our crews preparing for another day of honest work. There's a discrepancy, Dave finally said. How much? Approximately $300,000 in withdrawals with no corresponding expenses. Jonah leaned back in his chair. Those funds were allocated for upcoming projects. Equipment deposits, permit fees, material advances. I opened the third box. These are permit applications filed under Parish Electric's license. Notice anything unusual? Pete studied the documents. Some of these signatures are forgeries. My brother has been filing fraudulent permits, creating safety violations, and compromising our professional reputation. That's a serious accusation, Pete said. It's a provable accusation. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Jonah's voice filled the room. Marina trusted signatures that got the job done. My voice. She trusted forged authorizations. Jonah's voice. She trusted signatures that got the job done. Pete's face went pale. Jonah, please tell me you didn't just confess to permit fraud. That recording was made without my consent. In a public place where you had no reasonable expectation of privacy, I said. Perfectly legal. Dave was still calculating, adding columns of numbers that didn't balance. Jonah, where did the missing $300,000 go? Investment opportunities. Diversifying Parish Electric's holdings. What kind of investments? Real estate. The loft development on Riverside Drive. I smiled. The loft where my wife meets her lover. The loft that's titled in your name. The loft that was purchased with Parish Electric funds without board approval. The room went quiet except for Dave's calculator and the distant sound of truck engines warming up in the yard. Gentlemen, I said, I'm calling for Jonah's immediate removal as officer and director of Parish Electric. Grounds include embezzlement, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. Pete looked miserable. Ike, this is a family business. Maybe there's a way to resolve this internally. There is. Jonah reimburses the company for all unauthorized withdrawals, surrenders his ownership stake, and accepts permanent removal from any operational role. And if I refuse, Jonah asked, then I file criminal charges, civil suits, and regulatory complaints that will destroy Parish Electric entirely. Because if I can't save this company, I'll make sure nobody profits from eliminating it. Jonah stared at me across the glass table that reflected our faces like a funhouse mirror. Two brothers who'd shared everything, now dividing the pieces of our father's legacy. You'd really burn it all down? I'd really burn it all down. Dave cleared his throat. There's also the matter of banking covenants. If Parish Electric is in violation of loan agreements due to unauthorized fund usage, the bank could call our notes, Pete finished. Demand immediate repayment of outstanding balances. How much are we talking about? Jonah asked. $1.2 million, Dave said quietly. Due in 30 days if the bank invokes acceleration clauses. I pulled out the last document from my box. A cashier's check made out to First National Bank. A $1.2 million, I said. Paid in full as of this morning. Jonah stared at the check. Where did you get that money? From the sale of Parish Electric's equipment and inventory to Riverside Construction. They needed trucks and tools. I needed immediate cash. You sold our assets without board approval? I sold my assets with full legal authority as majority owner. I slid another document across the table. Stock transfer agreement signed by Mom yesterday afternoon. She's tired of watching her sons fight over money while her husband's company dies. Pete reviewed the agreement. This gives Ike controlling interest in Parish Electric. 60% ownership, I confirmed. Enough to make any decision I want without consulting anyone. Jonah's card declined before his coffee cooled. The Martin Street project failed inspection on a Tuesday morning. Perfect timing, since Channel 7 was covering the mayor's announcement about the city's new data infrastructure. Cameras rolling, ribbon-cutting ceremony planned, reporters asking questions about technological progress and job creation. Instead, they got Marina Cole standing in front of Parish Electric trucks, reading code violations into microphones, while construction workers stood around looking confused. "The electrical systems installed at this facility do not meet current safety standards," Marina announced, voice steady despite the circumstances. "We're ordering immediate work stoppage pending a full investigation." I watched from across the street, coffee getting cold in my hands. 6 months ago, this would have destroyed me. Today, it felt like surgery. Painful, but necessary. Jonah arrived in his BMW just as the first reporter started asking about permit irregularities. He parked behind our trucks and walked into the chaos like he owned it. Confident stride, professional smile, ready to manage the crisis. "I'm Jonah Parrish, company representative," he told the nearest camera. "This is obviously a miscommunication between city departments. We'll have it resolved quickly." The reporter, a young woman with ambitious eyes, sensed blood in the water. "Mr. Parrish, are you saying the city permit office made an error?" "I'm saying that sometimes bureaucratic processes create confusion. Parish Electric has been building safe, reliable electrical systems in this city for 38 years. But the inspection report indicates forged authorization signatures." Jonah's smile flickered. "I'm not familiar with that specific allegation." Marina stepped forward. "Mr. Parrish, are you claiming you didn't sign these permit modifications?" She held up documents I provided earlier that morning. Jonah's forgeries, clear as daylight under television lighting. "I'd need to review those documents with my legal counsel." "Sir, is this your signature?" the reporter asked, shoving a microphone toward Jonah's face. That's when Jamar appeared. Personal trainer confidence translated into security consultant authority, moving through the crowd like he belonged there. He whispered something in Jonah's ear, then positioned himself between the cameras and his new business partner. "Mr. Parrish has no further comment at this time," Jamar announced. The reporter turned toward him. "And you are?" "Security consultant for Parish Electric." I almost laughed. Security consultant. Jamar had found himself a title to go with his new paycheck. "Sir, do you have any comment on allegations that Parish Electric has been filing fraudulent permits?" Jamar stepped closer to the reporter. Too close. "Invasion of personal space, intimidation disguised as authority. I think you should be careful about repeating unsubstantiated allegations. The inspection report is public record. The inspection report reflects ongoing discussions between Parish Electric and city regulators." "Nothing more." Marina cleared her throat. "Actually, the inspection report reflects systematic safety violations that put public welfare at risk." Jamar turned toward her, jaw tight. "Ma'am, I think there's been enough grandstanding for one day." "Excuse me? You heard me." That's when I decided to cross the street, not to save Marina or protect Parish Electric's reputation, just to watch Jamar try to intimidate a city official on live television. "Jamar," I called out, loud enough for the microphones to catch. He spun around, surprise flickering across his face. "Ike, I thought you'd want to stay away from this mess." "Actually, I helped create this mess." The reporter's eyes lit up. "Mr. Parrish, are you saying you were involved in filing fraudulent permits?" "I'm saying I discovered fraudulent permits and reported them to the appropriate authorities." Jonah stepped forward. "Ike, what are you doing?" "Telling the truth. The truth according to who? According to bank records, permit applications, and recorded conversations." The cameras swiveled between us like spectators at a tennis match. Brothers in business suits, arguing over the corpse of their father's company while the city watched. "Mr. Parrish," the reporter said, "are you accusing your brother of fraud?" "I'm stating that forged signatures were used to obtain improper permits, that company funds were misappropriated, and that safety violations were concealed from city inspectors." Jamar moved closer. "Ike, you need to shut up." "Or what? Or people might start asking uncomfortable questions about your marriage," I smiled. "People can ask whatever they want." "Yeah? What about questions about your wife finding happiness with someone who actually appreciates her?" The cameras caught every word. Jamar, too stupid to realize he was confessing to infidelity on live television. Beth, watching from wherever she spent her afternoons now. probably realizing her lover was as dumb as he was pretty. Jamar, I said quietly, you might want to check your gym lease. What about my lease? Just check it. Confusion replaced aggression on his face. Behind him, Jonah was pulling out his phone, probably calling lawyers or damage control specialists or anyone who might salvage this disaster. Marina stepped between us. Gentlemen, this is neither the time nor the place for personal disputes. You're right, I said. The time for personal disputes was 6 months ago. This is just cleanup. Sir, is this your signature? The reporter asked. The truth about Beth's grand plan came out piece by piece, like a jigsaw puzzle assembled by a blind man. I'd been looking at the wrong picture, focusing on symptoms instead of the disease. It started with a phone call from Dave Chen, our accountant, at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. Ike, I found something in the books you need to see. Can it wait until morning? Not really. It's about Marina Cole. I sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. What about her? She's been receiving payments from Parish Electric. Monthly transfers, $5,000 each, going back 8 months. Payments for what? That's the problem. No invoices, no service contracts, no documentation. Just transfers to an account in her name. I stared at the ceiling, connecting dots I should have seen earlier. Dave, who authorized those payments? According to the bank records, you did. Send me copies of everything. Already in your email. I hung up and opened my laptop. The bank records were clear, monthly payments to Marina Cole, each one bearing my forged signature, each one processed without my knowledge. But there was something else. A pattern in the timing. The payments always came 3 days after Beth visited the spa. The same spa where Marina worked part-time as a massage therapist. The same spa where Beth had started getting couples counseling with Sylvie. I called Eddie at the assessor's office. Eddie, sorry to wake you. I need another property lookup. Jesus, Ike, it's almost midnight. 447 Riverside Drive again. I need the full ownership history. Keys clicked over the phone. Here we go. Original purchase was 18 months ago. Cash deal. Buyer was, that's weird. What's weird? Initial purchase was by Marina Cole, but she transferred ownership to Jonah Parrish 6 months later. $1 consideration. Marina bought the loft? Yeah, then basically gave it to your brother for free. I stared at my laptop screen, seeing the real picture for the first time. Marina hadn't been taking bribes from Jonah. She'd been taking payments from Parish Electric to fund the loft purchase, then transferring ownership to Jonah as part of a larger scheme. Eddie, who handled the financing for Marina's original purchase? Let me check. Loan officer was Elizabeth Parrish. Same last name as you guys? My wife? My wife had arranged financing for Marina to buy the loft where she would eventually sleep with Jamar while Jonah stole my company. I called Beth. It rang 4 times before she answered. Ike, it's late. I know, we need to talk. If this is about Jamar, it's about the loft, the one you helped Marina buy. Silence. Beth? I don't know what you're talking about. 447 Riverside Drive. You arranged the financing 8 months ago through your bank. More silence. Then, how did you find out about that? Does it matter? Ike, you don't understand the situation. Explain it to me. It's complicated. Try me. I heard her moving around, probably getting dressed or looking for somewhere private to talk. Marina needed help with the down payment. She had a good income, but not enough saved for a cash purchase. So you arranged financing? I arranged a bridge loan through my bank. Short term, high interest, but it got her the property. And then she transferred ownership to Jonah. That was always the plan. What plan? Beth's voice got smaller. The plan to get you away from the company. The words hit like a physical blow. Not anger, not betrayal, just the cold recognition of being played by experts. Keep talking. Jonah said Parish Electric was dying. That the city contracts were drying up, that new regulations were making it impossible to compete. He said the only way to save anything was to sell the company assets and start over. And you believed him? I believed the numbers he showed me. The debt ratios, the declining profits, the regulatory problems. What numbers? Financial projections showing Parish Electric bankrupt within 2 years? I opened the company books on my laptop. Current assets, $2.3 million. Current liabilities, $800,000. Net worth, $1.5 million. Not dying, not even sick. actually profitable if you remove Jonah's embezzlement. Beth, those projections were fake. That's not possible. Parish Electric is profitable, has been for years. Jonah was stealing money and cooking books to create artificial losses. No, he showed me bank statements, tax returns, audit reports. All fake. Designed to convince you that helping him steal the company was actually saving it. I heard her crying softly. Not the manipulative tears she'd used during our open marriage conversations. Real crying, the sound of someone discovering they'd been used. Beth, how long have you known Jamar? 6 months. How did you meet him? At the gym. Marina introduced us. Marina introduced you to your lover? She said I seemed unhappy, that maybe I needed someone who could appreciate me better. The picture was complete now. Marina and Jonah needed me distracted while they looted Parish Electric. They'd used Beth's discontent and Jamar's ambition to create a love triangle that would keep me busy, while they transferred assets and falsified records. The humiliation night had been theater. Bringing Jamar to our bedroom, declaring the arrangement non-negotiable, making sure I was angry enough to do something stupid. If I'd punched Jamar, if I'd filed for divorce immediately, if I'd acted like the jealous husband they expected, I never would have noticed the financial irregularities. They'd built a maze and left me the cheese. Friday morning, I executed the plan I'd been building for weeks. Not revenge, exactly. More like controlled demolition. First, I called the bonding company that insured Parish Electric's city contracts. This is Ike Parish. I need to report material changes to our company structure that affect bond coverage. What kind of changes, mister? Parish? Discovery of fraudulent permits and unauthorized financial transactions that may void existing coverage. Sir, that's a serious allegation. It's a documented allegation. I'm faxing supporting evidence now. Within 2 hours, every Parish Electric bond was under review. Every active city contract was frozen pending investigation. Every payment was held in escrow until the insurance company determined liability. Next, I called our bank. This is Ike Parish. I need to invoke the successor trustee provisions of our business loan covenants. Mr. Parish, those provisions only apply in cases of fraud or malfeasance, which is exactly what I'm reporting. Unauthorized fund transfers, forged signatures, violation of dual approval requirements. Sir will need documentation to support those claims, already in your email. By noon, Parish Electric's credit lines were frozen. Every check written by Jonah bounced. Every automatic payment failed. Every vendor demanding immediate cash payment for past due invoices. Then, I called Marina's supervisor. This is Ike Parish from Parish Electric. I need to report permit irregularities that may constitute criminal fraud. Mr. Parish, those allegations should go through proper channels. I'm going through proper channels. I'm also going through the district attorney's office, the state licensing board, and the FBI's white-collar crime division. Sir, that seems excessive. What seems excessive is a city employee taking bribes to approve dangerous electrical installations that could eliminate people. By afternoon, Marina was suspended pending investigation. Every permit she'd approved in the last year was under review. Every contractor who'd worked with her was answering questions from federal investigators. Finally, I called the property management company that handled Jamar's gym lease. This is Ike Parish. I need to discuss the surety bond for Fitness First Gym. Are you the bondholder? I'm the company that posted the bond. Parish Electric guaranteed the lease payments. Is there a problem with the account? The company posting the bond is under federal investigation for fraud. The bond may be void. Sir, if the bond is void, the tenant has 72 hours to provide alternative security or face immediate eviction. I understand. By dusk, none of them had keys to anywhere. Rain drummed against the windows of the empty loft while I waited in the dark. 447 Riverside Drive, Unit 3C, where my wife had discovered her authentic self and my brother had planned my destruction. I'd been there since sunset, sitting in Jonah's expensive furniture, reviewing documents by lamplight. Bank statements, permit applications, recorded conversations, email printouts. A paper trail that painted a clear picture of conspiracy, embezzlement, and fraud. The elevator chimed at 9:17 p.m. Footsteps in the hallway, urgent voices, someone fumbling with keys. Then the door opened and they filed in like mourners at a funeral. Beth first, looking older than her 43 years. Stress lines around her eyes, clothes wrinkled from a day of crisis management. Behind her came Jamar, gym clothes replaced by a cheap suit that didn't fit right. Then Jonah, designer confidence cracked like old paint. Finally, Marina, still wearing her city ID badge like armor that no longer protected her. They stopped when they saw me sitting in the leather chair Jonah had bought with stolen money. "Hello, everyone." Beth spoke first. "Ike, what are you doing here?" "Waiting for the final act." Jonah stepped forward. "This is breaking and entering. It's visiting property I own." "Check the deed transfers filed this afternoon." Marina pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the police." "Good idea. Ask for Detective Morrison from White Collar Crimes. He's been looking forward to meeting you." Jamar moved toward me, hands clenched. "You think you're pretty smart, don't you?" "Smart enough. Smart enough to destroy your own company? Smart enough to ruin your marriage? Smart enough to make enemies of everyone who ever tried to help you? Smart enough to follow the money?" I stood up and walked to the window overlooking the river. Below us, police lights reflected off wet pavement. 2 unmarked cars and a surveillance van parked across the street. "Beth, did you really think I wouldn't notice $5,000 monthly payments to Marina?" "Those weren't bribes," Marina said quickly. "Those were consulting fees." "For what consulting? Regulatory guidance? Permit strategy? Process optimization?" I laughed. "Process optimization, that's good." Jonah sat down hard in an expensive chair. "Ike, whatever you think you know. I know you've been stealing from Parish Electric for 18 months. I know you forged my signature on dozens of permits. I know you created shell companies to launder embezzled funds. I know you bought this loft with stolen money and gave it to Marina to secure her cooperation. That's not how it happened." "Then how did it happen?" Silence filled the room like smoke. Outside, more police cars arrived. Red and blue lights painted the walls, turning the loft into a crime scene. "Jonah, tell me how it happened." "The company was struggling. Regulations were getting tighter, margins were shrinking, competition was brutal. I found ways to stay competitive. By breaking the law. By bending rules that were designed to protect established contractors from new competition. By putting workers at risk. By keeping 40 people employed." Beth moved to the window. "Oh, God, there are police everywhere." "They're not here for you," I said. "Not yet." "What do you mean?" "I mean, you can still walk away from this. All of you can." Jamar laughed bitterly. "Walk away to what?" "My gym lease is canceled. My business is destroyed. My reputation is shot. Your business was never legitimate. You were being paid to seduce my wife as a distraction while Jonah looted my company." "That's not true." "Prove it." "I don't have to prove anything to you." "Actually, you do." I pulled out a digital recorder and set it on the coffee table. "This device has been recording our conversation since you walked in. Everything you've said tonight will be transcribed and provided to investigators." Marina went pale. "You can't record us without consent? I can record anything that happens in property I own." "You don't own this property." "Check the afternoon deed transfers. Marina Cole transferred ownership to Jonah Parrish 6 months ago. Jonah Parrish transferred ownership to Isaac Parrish this afternoon. All legal, all properly filed, all witnessed by a notary public." Jonah stared at me. "I never signed any transfer. You signed a lot of things lately. Power of attorney documents, asset transfer agreements, stock surrender forms. Funny how your signature looks different when you're desperate." "I didn't sign any power of attorney." "You signed them when the FBI offered you immunity in exchange for cooperation." The room went silent except for rain against glass and distant sirens. "That's impossible," Marina whispered. "Is it? Jonah, tell them about your meeting with federal investigators this afternoon." Jonah's face went gray. "I don't know what you're talking about. Tell them about the wire you've been wearing for the last 3 hours." Everyone turned to stare at Jonah, who slowly unbuttoned his shirt to reveal recording equipment taped to his chest. Beth staggered backward. "You fool." "I had no choice," Jonah said. "They had everything. Bank records, forged permits, recorded conversations. They offered me a deal." "What kind of deal?" Marina demanded. "Cooperation in exchange for reduced charges." "Cooperation how?" "Recording conversations, documenting financial transactions, providing evidence of conspiracy." Jamar lunged toward Jonah, but I stepped between them. "Easy." "The police are listening to everything." "You set us up," Beth said. "You set yourselves up. I just documented it." Marina was scrolling through her phone frantically. I need a lawyer. You need several lawyers. Federal conspiracy charges, municipal corruption, wire fraud, money laundering. This is going to take a very good legal team. The elevator chimed again. Footsteps in the hallway, but heavier this time. Official. That would be the FBI, I said. The door opened and 3 agents entered, badges visible, expressions professional. Behind them came Detective Morrison and 2 uniformed officers. Ladies and gentlemen, the lead agent announced, you're all under arrest. They read rights and applied handcuffs while I sat in Jonah's stolen chair, watching 20 years of marriage and 40 years of brotherhood end in a sterile recitation of constitutional protections. Beth looked at me one last time before they led her away. Was any of it real? The first 10 years were real. And the last 10 were business. After they were gone, I sat alone in the empty loft, listening to rain and sirens fade into ordinary night sounds. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. I saw the news. Are you okay? I typed back, I'm fine. But I wasn't fine. I was something else entirely. Something harder and colder and more efficient than the man who'd discovered his wife with another man 6 months ago. I walked to the window and looked down at the river where lights reflected like broken promises. Tomorrow, I would rebuild Parish Electric under new management. I would hire honest workers and bid honest contracts in wire buildings that wouldn't eliminate anyone. Tonight, I would finish what they started. I pulled out my phone and called the reporter who'd covered the Martin Street disaster. This is Ike Parrish. I have a story for you. Mr. Parrish, it's almost midnight. Trust me, you'll want to hear this. What kind of story? The kind that wins awards. I looked around the loft one last time, memorizing details I would never see again. Expensive furniture bought with stolen money. Art chosen by people with no taste. A love nest built on lies and maintained with betrayal. Then I walked to the door, turned off the lights, and said the words I'd been saving for months. I kept one promise. I made it non-negotiable.